This old house is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome to This Old House. It's our 13th show and the last one of the season. I'm sure you'll agree there have been a lot of changes here at This Old House since we got started. We're going to be giving you a full tour of the place today, so we have to hurry along. We've actually finished and furnished the living room, and we've also done the dining room, but we're going to get started today talking with Tom Worth, our landscape architect. And Tom, I believe you're ready to talk with me about a 3-year plan or a 4-year plan for things that can be done in the future.
A phase plan, Bob. I've brought you a sketch just to kind of look at how we could approach the whole site. Probably this is as good a place as any to start thinking about the views from the kitchen windows out to the streets. We'd really like to hide those in some way, so I've come up with a little plan to use these U's that we have here and incorporate them into a kind of evergreen screen.
Yeah, these yew bushes used to flank our old sidewalk right up to the front door.
That's right. Now what I've done is, you can see these green things are plants. This is the evergreen hedge or screen that I'm talking about, which would hide the views directly out from the windows.
Okay, so that you would not always be looking at the street and the parked cars.
That's right.
And so forth.
We could put a flowering tree in front of them too and use the evergreen as a background for something very attractive in this front yard.
All right, that's something that could really be very nice. But you know, I'm still concerned about the view that one gets as we're driving down the street and approaching the house, and we've got, remember, the telephone pole is a problem and everything else. Is there any suggestion you have for that?
Well, my thought is that if we used a tree right here, Bob, it would a big shade tree. It would tend to do a couple of things for us. It would frame the view. As we're coming up to the house, we'd look under it at the house, which is one way of using tall trees. Another, of course, is to provide shade. And what I've shown on the plan right here is right where we're standing is a shade tree, which would give us this framed view to the house. And then right over here is another shade tree, which would give us shade for the cars parked in the driveway in the summertime.
Excellent. Any particular kind of tree that we would use?
Well, I think sugar maple or a honey locust or any number of tall shade trees that wouldn't grow too much out of size on this small property.
Yeah. Well, what I'm concerned with also is what we still have left up here that we haven't had time to deal with.
I'm concerned with it too, Bob, because it's really scruffy. I'd like to get rid of it. But I think the plan here, because this is the north side of the house, in my view, would be nice to extend this railroad tie edge out here about 8 feet or so, right along the edge, fill this up maybe about 12 inches high.
So you'd have a different height of
height from the lawn, that's right. And this would be a perfect background to plant some rhododendrons, some evergreen, broadleafed evergreens that would love this north exposure on the house where they wouldn't winter burn.
They wouldn't on the north side?
That's right. So it's just simply a matter of extending that edge along here and planting against. And this is something that could be executed over a number of years.
Sure, sure.
It could be almost a hobby for the owner here.
2 plants a year, yeah. What about this side lot? We really couldn't get too much done over here with the budget we had.
Yeah, we only have about 10 feet on this side. And I think the key thing that I really wanted to accomplish here was just a sense of screen between this house and that.
Well, there's also the views out of the bedrooms in this direction.
That's right. So I thought that right here we could, and I've shown kind of 2 things right here, is just to simply plant maybe a couple of dogwoods on the property line. Here's the corner of the house. And then here's another shade tree right on the corner of the southwest corner of the house where you get the most summer sun.
Well, that would be right over here. I'm kind of walking the property line right here.
Right in this area. Now, of course, then we also have the view to the garage, the neighbor's garage. And a group of lilac or some other multi-stem shrub planted right here would do wonders to screen this off, and as well as the cars that are parked out here.
And it would be kind of silhouetted against the neighbor's garage. There's a lot of things to do, and I imagine the only way to do them is to spread them out over the course of several years.
Well, the other thing that we really ought to focus on back here is the living area. And the first part of that, of course, is the view from the dining room.
One of the best things we ever did was to move that picture window from the north side of the house over here to the south side.
I think it's worked out very well, Bob. The view here is just wonderful. What I would like to do, though, is to see some more evergreen, or some evergreen like laurel and maybe some rosebay rhododendron to give some life to this winter landscape here.
Just dot it up towards the stone wall?
Right. And then right here, a shade tree would be perfect. A nice, light, airy tree that would give us a little bit of shade over the sunroom and frame this view out of the picture window.
Okay. What about the view from our living area over here?
The deck that's just been built out here, Bob, which is gives us the primary view of the whole backyard. I think the best thing to do is to look at the plan to show you what I'm recommending here. There's the shade tree that we just talked about, which will give us some shade on the sunroom.
And we're right here on the deck.
On the deck itself. We're bringing some planting around here, and the color indicates some herbs and some colorful perennials that you'll see from the deck. The view, of course, to the woods is still, a primary one. And then there's one in this direction where we'd like a little bit of privacy from the neighboring house. Now, the view from the deck to the house, you see, is very direct. So if we can do some planting there with maybe 3 or 4 upright plants in this low spot, it'd be very nice.
Okay, but let's talk about what we've done on the front. That's what's really exciting.
This entry area was a real challenge, Bob. I think it's worked out quite well, don't you?
It solved the problem. And of course, Greg and Phil and Norm and all the guys did a very nice job of building it, the deck with the diagonal material on it. I think it looks super.
I do too. And I think what it's really accomplished is this sense of entry space, which we really set out to do. I think what it's also done is to really put the service entrance kind of in second place, which is where it should be. And yet it's really quite attractive. This 6-foot-high screen does a very nice job of kind of putting that in its place.
Yeah, but the whole works so nicely together to create a kind of a private entrance.
And this rhododendron, of course, is key. I mean, you walk right out the front door, and this is what you see all year round. And then, of course, we'll have some beautiful little bulbs coming up here eventually.
That would be a good place for bulbs, huh?
This wooden screen wall is working very well here, Bob, to completely screen this view instead of plants, which we thought of before. I think the wall really does the job.
Yeah. No, well, the whole area is very elegant with the railroad ties and the crushed stone on the bottom, the treated wood steps leading right up to the service entry, and, of course, the whole wraparound enclosure here.
It's nice to make a service entrance pleasant because, after all, the owner's going to be using this probably more often than the front door.
Yeah.
Bob, there's just one further thing that I think we should really do here. I wish we would have done it, but that is to make this entrance even better. And that would be to have put a planting bed right here that would come out kind of on the angle and then come across like this to take in the pussy willow. Plant a very pleasant kind of maybe smaller leaf rhododendron in here with some lower ground cover. And that would serve to make this entrance very, very special.
Yeah, kind of finish the focus towards the door. But I'll tell you, Tom, we've already spent the last $1,500 we can borrow on doing all this construction here.
It's well worth it, don't you think?
Thank you for your cooperation.
Right
it. Now I want to go inside and give everybody a close look at our finished kitchen. Well, there have been a lot of changes made in this kitchen, I'll tell you. We've got a quarry tile floor in the mudroom. Never had a mudroom here before, but now at last I can hang up my jacket when I walk in here on something other than a nail. We've redone the floors, and, well, do you remember what it looked like? Take a look at this picture, all those dark cabinets that we had back here in this little galley kitchen. Lots of changes have been made. We now have a new breakfast area right here, which, of course, blends in with the rest of the space that was here in terms of the floor being new oak that's all been sanded and refinished. And we've put in this nice round breakfast table with the 2 paperclip chairs to give you an idea of how best to use the space. And somebody come along and decorated the tabletop for us. The working part of the kitchen is in very good condition. The new appliance here is the dishwasher, which we've just wired up. And the sink, believe it or not, is the one that you saw in that photograph a minute ago. We did save a few dollars there, although we put new fittings on it. And then behind me, the stove has been wired, the stove hood, and this light fixture that we installed here, which is 2 feet square and uses fluorescent tubes, it's a very good one because it casts kind of general light throughout the whole working area. And the last item we should look at is the refrigerator. Believe it or not, we did not spend any money on a new refrigerator. This is the old brown one you saw a minute ago. Take a look at how we did it. It would match with the newly designed kitchen. What's involved in switching colors on an appliance like this?
Well, it's basically a 3-part process, Bob. It's masking, sanding, and then the actual spraying.
Kind of like painting a car, isn't it?
Just about the same thing, yeah.
Okay. And is it the sort of thing that has to be, the refrigerator has to be taken out of the kitchen and done in a shop or something? We're doing it here in the basement because we already had it stored here.
No, in fact, we prefer to do it in the kitchen. It's a smaller room, and it's easy to cover, and
you can contain the paint from getting all over the place.
Not as open.
What about the color choice involved? Is it just strictly the major colors that are available for appliances?
It doesn't matter. We can spray any color if you're given a sample. Basically, appliance colors, but we can spray.
If I wanted it purple or orange, you could do that for me?
Anything.
And how much are you charging us to do this?
$75 for the basic up-and-down refrigerator.
Up and down? Oh, you mean two doors as opposed to those side-by-side?
$5 more for the side-by-side.
That's quite a deal. It's quite a savings as opposed to just tossing out a refrigerator and buying a new one. Sure. Hey, what about wearability? Will this thing be able to stand a lot of washings and so forth?
It's exactly the same as the original finish. The same paint, same thing.
Okay, well, I'm not going to take too much of your time. I want to actually watch you and watch the process. Okay, what's involved?
Well, I'll stop my compressor, which is outside for noise, and...
Yeah, we didn't want to have that thing right inside here. Yeah. Should we all have face masks on?
Well, I have to. You should...
I'll back off.
Back off a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, what do you think of that, huh? Not bad for $75. A new one really would have cost probably about $500. Let's go in the dining area over here, and I guess we'll bump into Norm. What are you doing?
Hi, Bob. I'm just checking out the patch I made. It looks pretty good.
This was one of the problem areas that Norm stepped in and very handily solved for us earlier this week. Let's just take a brief look at how we did that. Norm, we're in our new dining room here, but of course this used to be one of the bedrooms, and this is the giveaway. This is where the partition used to be, so that of course there was no finished flooring here. I've been kicking this one around, and what do you suppose the best way to patch this oak flooring would be?
Well, ideally, Bob, it would be nice to continue these lines straight through again.
How would you go about doing that?
Well, the first thing we'd have to do is break back this flooring randomly, preferably at some of these old joints, like here and here, and do that on both sides, and then run...
Take pieces out like that,
That's
you mean?
right, and then run new pieces through.
All the way across?
Right, because you can't take and run a bunch of short pieces right here and have a seam on it.
No, I didn't think that would work.
No.
Well, wouldn't that take an awful lot of time?
That would take a lot of time, and we have to check one thing before to see if it can be done at all, and that's if these two align. Each side aligns.
That's right, because they're two different floors that were laid independent of each other, and
they don't.
We can't do it anyway.
They're off about 3/8
of an inch there. All right, got any clever ideas?
Well, one thought might be, why don't we try this? How do you think this would look? If we put one piece of flooring here, then we take one and put it this way, then another piece like this. In other words, stagger the joints like this. We'd have to cut those properly, like that.
End up with kind of a basket weave.
That's right, here and all the way back to that wall.
Well, that's kind of like the old-timers used to turn corners in a border in a floor. I like that, but why do you suppose we have to go all the way across?
Well, you're missing some floor here.
You've got to patch that up.
Right, and it does align with that wall, so that would probably look the best.
Well, how much time would that take?
That would probably take about a couple hours.
You're on.
All right.
How do you go about doing it?
Okay, the first thing we have to do is make this opening a little bit wider so that we can get
so that you can fit
three pieces of flooring. All right, now I've already figured out where our cuts have to be made, and the first thing I'll do is put down a cleat to act as a straight edge for the saw.
Use your pencil line over here.
Right, now what I did is we use this because we have to put the saw here, and we need a guide. Let the base of the saw ride against this board so that we get a nice straight cut all the way down that line.
Right.
And we also use a saw with a carbide tip blade in case we hit any nails so that we don't ruin the blade completely.
Not completely, but close to it. Yeah.
So let's tack this cleat down where it belongs.
I'll hold it on for you here. Once Norman got all the old wooden flooring out of this area over here and ended up with two perfectly straight lines, he went and pre-cut all the new oak flooring, and now we're about to find out if it'll fit.
All right, Bob, the first piece we have to put in is this one right here. So we'll get that. Tap it into place. Now, we can nail this with these cut nails, which have traditionally been used in hardwood flooring for hundreds of years.
Why is that the favorite kind of nail to use?
Because they're harder, easier to drive through hard wood, because it's a hard steel, and they also tend not to split the wood as easily. We just drive it in, like that, and we use another nail. Set it.
Well, you can nail that one, but I'm really getting curious about how you're going to
All right,
handle
now the rest of the pieces we really can't nail with the cut nails. So the first thing to do is sort of pre-assemble everything loosely. Get it in place, this piece, this piece. I think we'll drive that one in. This piece. That one, okay. Now, what we're going to do, because we have to get a nice tight joint, we have to get these in loosely, and then we'll fold it in. Could you just hold that up?
There.
Okay, now this one it gets a little hotter as we get
Closer to
to
the
that
end.
last piece, right? We've got to raise that up a little bit.
Beautiful.
Now we have to get it up a little bit higher, Bob.
You've got a nail in the way yet.
I think if I can... It's all right if it came out on that side. There. That's okay.
Well, they fit, Norman.
One
but
more piece. The most difficult piece to get in on the end. Okay, Bob.
Nifty. Now, how are we going to...
We'll just... 3 pieces we need to wedge in. See how they're buckled? It's really, we're folding it back down again. And here we'll drive it with a piece of wood.
Hey, that's one.
Now what we need is a few nails to hold it down.
Right through the face?
We'll face nail it. A little trick that we can use, it's very hard to drive a nail through oak. So you can drill a hole. Now, if you don't have a drill bit the exact size of the nail you're going to use, you just take a nail. And, for instance, we're going to use 8-penny finish nails, which is this size. Cut off the head, put it in the drill bit, and it becomes a drill. And it works very well. You just have to... drill the hole like that. And we've got it all set for our nails.
Okay. Well, Norm, that was a neat trick with a nail in the drill.
Right, I have a lot of little tricks like that I'd like to show you, Bob.
Well, I guess we've reached the end of the line as far as work around here, though.
Well, Bob, when are we going to do another This Old House?
We will probably know in 2 or 3 weeks just what our plans are. I'll keep you informed. We're hoping to find something like a big old house someplace that we can put an income apartment into. I
Sounds
just don't
good.
know yet.
Sounds good. Keep me informed because, you know, prices are going up every day.
I've heard that. I hear that all the time. I'll talk with you. You know, we could have never done it without you and the fellas. Right now, let's go and take a look in our bedrooms where we finished all the wallpaper hanging. The first bedroom off our back hall here is also the smallest. Notice just as you walk in that the oak floors have been refinished, and they really came out beautifully. They probably had never been sanded in 25 years. We took a different kind of wallpaper in here. It's a dark blue with a nautical theme throughout it. We figured a small room that gets a lot of sunlight can handle a paper like this, And it should be a very warm, cozy study if that's what it's used for. Let's take a look at the bedroom at the end of the hall now. Now, this corner bedroom here, believe it or not, was originally the biggest bedroom at this old house, and it's approximately 10 feet square. Again, the flooring came out beautifully, and the choice of wallpaper here is a white field or background with branches of pussy willow done kind of in a tan and blue. I'm not sure how it's seen on your television set, but it's very attractive here, and the whiteness also helps to make it seem larger. And of course, our friend who did the wallpapering here did a very nice job of even covering over the switch plates and so forth. And now, for the master suite, or master bedroom, come around this way. Do you remember what this room looked like? This was originally the living room here at this old house, and right in this location where we put in the awning windows is where we originally had that big picture window that's now in the dining room. Of course, we built in a closet over here, outfitted it with some bifold doors with mirrors on them, some nice track lighting right up here in this dressing area. We've done the whole room in a flowered patterned wallpaper, including the switch plates again. And in the new bathroom that we built, we've got a fiberglass shower enclosure, 3 feet square. And the area around it has also been papered in a coordinating print or pattern. We built a new vanity with ceramic tile on the top of it, and of course using a gray plastic laminate. And behind me, what's kind of interesting, this is where the front door to this old house originally was, that old red door with the awning over it. It's come a long way, as I was saying. But now, let's go to the more exciting part of the place, where we've got our new dining room, our new sunroom, and the new living room. We've furnished all of these rooms to give you an idea of just how well they work. Remember, originally this was the third bedroom at this old house. It was painted green. It had a tiny little window over here, and this is where we installed our picture window. And it makes a big difference because the amount of southerly light that comes in here now and the view that you get make it a really enjoyable space to take meals. We've set up a normal-sized dining table just to give everybody the idea of how well it fits in here and how much room there is to walk around, even though it's not an enormous space. Of course, the wallpaper helps also. The arch that we built into what used to be the end wall of the house adds a little bit of visual interest and helps to provide a transition before you get into the greenhouse space over here. And of course, everywhere I turn, there's still a little detail that hasn't been gotten to. This is the oak shelf that we put up here, which is a nice wide surface upon which we can almost set food platters and so forth. And all we were planning to do was to add some of this tung oil as a finish. And you'll see what happens to the oak when you do it. And of course, I'm only going to do a little piece to give you an idea what that wood is going to look like. The tung oil is not an inexpensive finish, but it gives it real rich depth. You can see all that grain coming through. And, oh, I could spend the next hour doing this properly, because you have to let it dry and rub it well and then put another coat on it. But boy, doesn't that make it look rich. And now, my favorite space in the whole place, the entry into what we've always called the sunroom, kind of. And again, we've got some furniture that we've set up to show you how well it could work. But all the light that comes in through the ceiling, even on a cloudy day like today, just makes it a really wonderful place to think about just reading or taking a snooze. We've got some beautiful plants that have been loaned to us all around me here. And one of the features that I haven't had a chance to point out in the past is these units behind me, in which we've already installed these Venetian louvers or blinds. Normally, these just hang, and they are great dust collectors, but in this particular situation, they're sandwiched in between two panes of glass, the outer glass, and then we get the thermal barrier by having this removable inside sash. And of course, the blinds are controlled by a little knob down on the bottom here, so that you can get privacy, you can control the amount of sunlight that's coming in. You can do just about anything you want. The plants really make it look beautiful. You ready to go into the living room? Come on this way. And it's hard to believe that 2.5 months ago, this was just the garage here at this old house. The old garage door was right behind me. Of course, we removed it a long time ago, and in the meantime, we did settle on this 1x6 tongued and grooved pine paneling. What I did to avoid the kind of woodsy look was to put a transparent white stain on the pine. This helps me because I want to keep this room as light as possible, and yet I still want to have the visual interest of all the knot holes and so forth. And of course, I carried it on to the ceiling. And it makes here for an interesting ceiling with all the wood up there, because we raised this roof, remember, and it still has to come down on the sides. We've ended up with what's called a tray ceiling. And over here it gets lowered again, but we've got a lot of light tones which still help you have the sense of a big room. It's 16 by 18 feet, big enough to have a comfortable sectional sofa, a few of these little cocktail tables. This piece of furniture, I believe, is meant for hi-fi or stereo equipment. Now, here's a mistake, I think, from the point of view of designing this space, or, you know, you're do-it-yourselfer designers. I think this window should have been smaller, just to allow light to come in, but not to expose us as much to the neighborhood. This was not a mistake, though. This coal-burning stove that we have here, a little bit too hot to touch right now, is something that's going to save a lot of energy money around here. And, of course, we've got the view out the window and everything else. We're running short on time for today, and, of course, it is our last episode here at This Old House, so I hope you like what we've done here. And I hope you'll stay tuned to your PBS stations, because there's a 99% chance that we're going to be doing another interesting series on This Old House. Until then, I'm Bob Vila.
This Old House is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.